I never want help. I don't need help from anyone. I'm a strong, independent woman of the 90s. Hey y'all, I'm AJ Reyes.
And I'm Timothy Dailey-Valdes.
And this is Can I Bother You? Welcome back if you're back. Welcome if you're... Welcome. What? If you want more of that, you can follow us on the socials at Can I Bother You on Instagram and Twitter, at Can I Bother You podcast on Facebook. Definitely find more of the wittiness and the charm that I just exuded. Effortlessly oozing charm. Also, if you enjoy words like ooze or moist, definitely follow us.
Don't follow me.
Speaking of unpleasant things, I want to talk about voting and our civic duty. You are hearing this on October 1st. Well, it's going up October 1st. I don't know when you're listening to it. I don't know your life like that, yo. But as of this podcast airing, you have just over a month until Election Day. And I believe I meant to pull up the all the important dates and I forgot to do it. That's a hamburger. Okay. I don't know where the edit is going to be, but there's going to be an edit to cut some of that out.
Sure.
So I'm just going to start talking. Now that I'm looking at the dates, I have a better idea of what I'm trying to tell you. October 5th is the date for registration, or to check your registration. So you still have a few days, as of this episode airing anyway. I don't know when you're listening to it. In-person early voting is October 13th, and that ends October 30th. And then, of course, there is Election Day on Tuesday, November 3rd. Timothy, you probably knew this already, because you're, like, smart and shit. But did you know that Election Day is always the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November?
I did?
I did not know that, and now that I know that phrasing, that's going to be helpful, but I'm also just like, why is it the first Tuesday after the first Monday? Why can't it just be the first Tuesday? I mean, it would have to be November 1st, but I'm like, is it just that they don't want to do it after Halloween? Or are they worried people are going to go in there and, like, they're Nixon costumes? Or, like, what are they?
Well, I don't think when the Founding Fathers...
Oh, they were just worried about witches.
Halloween wasn't a widespread celebration in America in the period. But...
Okay, well then it's definitely, what the hell, y'all? Like, why can't it be November 1st? Why they hating?
I don't know. That's a very good question. I wonder if it had something to do with the first of the month, maybe? They didn't want it to be on the first of the month for some reason.
I guess so. And to be fair, I almost answered my own question when I was like, why they hating? It's because they be on that haterade. Like, that's all they ever did, you know?
You heard it here first, folks. The Founding Fathers were on that haterade. Oh, and do keep in mind, y'all, that we live in Texas, so dates for registration and early voting may be different in your locality.
Yes, thank you for saying that. So, one of my darkest shames is that I did not vote for Obama the first time he was up for... I mean, I didn't vote for anyone. I didn't vote. I just turned 18 in 2008. Well, I guess I had been 18 for that full year. I was about to turn 19, I guess. But anyway, so I was eligible to vote, but I didn't vote. That was back when I decided that voting didn't matter and that nothing mattered. To be fair, I still think nothing matters, but I do think that you should vote anyway. Is that the first time you voted?
I'm going to have to be very careful here not to discuss particular candidates or...
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Policies. Just, listener, I don't know if you recall from previous episodes, but I do work for the state of Texas, and so we're not allowed to broadcast our political opinions, so I may be walking on eggshells, but I like to think it's pretty clear where I stand. Unless you're my boss or something, in which case, who knows?
He could be voting for the ghost.
I'm sorry, your question...
When's the first time you voted?
Oh, the first time I voted was the midterm election of 2006, the November after my 18th birthday. I will say I very proudly voted for a candidate who I knew wasn't going to win because I thought, oh, I'll vote for... God, I don't know. Like, he's a state celebrity, I will say that. But, like, not for politics.
Oh, okay.
An artist of sorts. Anyway, so I was very proud of my principled, I'm going to vote for the governor that I wish to see in the world,
Yeah.
But suffice it to say, that person didn't win. But I remember feeling very full of a sense of pride and responsibility walking into the first time I voted, it was at a church. And actually, that was where I voted for a long time. I don't know how interesting any of this is.
None of this is interesting. It's a podcast.
I'm trying to think if anything else interesting happened that day. It wasn't very crowded at the time that I went, but most of the people who were there were quite a bit older. And of course, all the volunteers were. I think with very few exceptions, I've never. What? I can only think of a handful of times that I've seen an election volunteer that was younger than 50.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone. I don't think I've ever even seen anyone that young, honestly.
I know that people younger than that do.
The first time I voted was the 2012 election. I voted at our high school on election day. I was going to be like, it was the longest line I've ever stood in. That's not true. I've been to Schlitterbahn. But it was a very long line, and I remember thinking, am I sure this is worth it? But I'd heard the person that wasn't Obama speak. Oh my god, I know his name. I said it the other day when we were talking about this.
Do you want help?
No. The point is, the other guy hated everything about me, so I was like, Obama. Also, I just liked Obama. Just everything that he had done at that point. And then there was a turn for the worse. I was trying to set myself up for a joke, and then I couldn't get to a joke, so whatever. There's nothing to joke about. He was perfect. Timothy, what do you think?
I'm literally not allowed to comment.
I know, that's why I'm going to keep talking about this. Just trying to keep Timothy quiet. Anyway, I voted in our high school gym. I think standing in that line was the most time I ever spent in that gym, like in total. So this is for another episode, but I didn't go to school a lot. I did have 2 semesters of gym, but I don't remember being in the gym all that often. It's hardly an exaggeration when I say that I spent more time standing in the line to vote than I ever did in that space for gym class.
We can cut this out if you don't want it to be in the show, but should we clarify that you mean you voluntarily weren't at school a lot?
How did I phrase it?
You phrased it very neutrally, like you weren't at school a lot, I think is what you said. I think it would be not impossible for someone to infer, or for someone to draw their own conclusions that might not be true.
Timothy might have cut out the conversation that just happened, but he was just asking if I thought we should clarify that I was voluntarily not in school. So in case you didn't get what I was saying that I skipped school a lot.
I'm not trying to throw you under the bus or anything.
No, you just want to get me in trouble for truancy 12 years later. No, it's fine. I get it.
There's no statute of limitation. Can you imagine if that was true? Well, actually, I don't know if there legally is one on the books, but I mean, there's no way they would pursue that.
They barely pursued it when I was in school. Which on the one hand, as the truant... Is that the word?
Yeah.
Okay. As the truanter...
You asked me if that was the word, and I told you yes.
When have I ever played by the rules of English? Also, I didn't go to school. I don't know what the word is. Anyway, as the truant, I'm grateful that they weren't, constantly on me for, why aren't you in school? Because that would have been, harshing my buzz, man.
Totally.
But then on the other hand, it's wow, the public school system's really failing our children.
I just want to clarify that the reason I wanted to clarify was that I didn't want people to think that, you were being kept out of school against your will or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, got you.
I didn't want anybody to assume a situation that wasn't there.
Yeah, no, I wasn't being held hostage in a castle with talking furniture. No.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's your life, Timothy. That's not the life I want.
Oh, man.
I think in that joke, Tim was a parent of mine or something, and he was trying to force Stockholm Syndrome on me? I don't really know.
Yeah, it took a turn, because first you were calling me a Disney princess, and then you were calling me a Disney parent, I guess.
That's the second time I've made a Stockholm Syndrome reference. Not this episode, but in our overall podcast. This is only episode 10, and I feel like I've already talked about it too much. It's a real problem today. I don't know it's a problem today, but somewhere it might be.
Stockholm, I would imagine.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm totally kidding. Stockholmers, I'm sure that your city is lovely.
Stockholminians?
Listener, if you're from Stockholm, write in and let us know what your demonym is.
Please. Anyway, so that's basically the story. The most exciting thing was getting the I voted sticker. I have a mini fridge, y'all. I've had it since I was, 18, I think. But anyway, so I went home and I put it on my mini fridge, and like now I have like a little row. Oh, you know what? The week that this goes up, I'll post a photo of my I voted stickers. So yeah, my first election was mostly standing in line until I finally got up to the thing. And then also I got up there and I didn't know what the hell to do. Like I didn't know how to work it. They didn't like really guide me through it. They probably told me something, but I still remember walking up to it and being like, what is this? That's what the process was like for me, like voting. But then that night, I felt like I was waiting forever to hear the results because it was real close for like a second. I was just keeping a very close eye on it and I was just driving myself crazy. But it was the 2016 election that almost killed me. I've been talking forever though, Timothy.
It's not a whole story, but election night story, kinda.
Hit us with it, baby.
An anecdote anyway. But I was with the oft-mentioned Emma. 2008, we were at her apartment and she had this projector that she connected her computer to. And so we were watching the election results. We would watch like a live stream for a little bit and then we would switch over and like just be refreshing the electoral returns. And then at one point we refreshed a page. I don't even remember what news source it was, but it had the final result and a picture of the candidate who won.
I mean, you're allowed to talk about history, right?
Yeah. It showed Obama looking all happy with his family. And the headline at the top was from his victory speech, I think. Or at least a quote from him in some way, or a quote from someone, I don't know. Anyway, but it said all things are possible because it was a big deal. I mean, he was America's first black president and, people saw it as a very historic moment because it was. But her projector was positioned in such a way that all you could read was all things are pos. And so that became a thing that we just said. To this day, we still say it like when something good happens, or not that is me endorsing the results of that election necessarily. Anyway, but yeah, anytime anything good happens or anytime we're trying to encourage the other one or anything, we'll just say all things are pos. Oh, and it was in all caps. So if we ever type it, that's how we type it. And we sort of say it in a very emphatic but like almost robotic voice. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, you heard me say it.
Right.
All things are pos.
It's like an angry robot who's
Yeah,
trying to
but
encourage
like,
you. Yeah.
Well, in my mind, he's not angry. He's just like very intense. But I don't know.
I have this tickle that I was like fighting the whole time you were telling your story because I was like, I don't want to ruin a story.
I did a good enough job of that, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm glad you picked that up. So 2016 election night, I was just sitting at my dining room table. None of my roommates were home. I don't remember where they were. They were all out living their lives, I guess. This is before Timothy and I were roommates. And so I had 3 other roommates and they were all out partying it up, I'm sure. And I'm at home worrying about the election and I'm just like staring at my computer. And I was just very in not a good place because the numbers were not looking good for Hillary. So I was like, okay, what can I do to take my mind off of this? So I tried YouTube and that didn't really work. And I couldn't go to Facebook because all of my friends were also obsessing. So I decided to just be a mature adult and just turn on the Lizzie McGuire movie. I just knew that was the only way to get out of this. Like, if anyone was going to save me, it was going to be Lizzie. Well, that bitch failed me because all I did was continue to obsess until we finally got the results. I've been with my share of men, and I've had some bad nights, but that was the worst night ever.
It was a night.
Yeah, I'm sure you can remember how everyone around you was reacting.
So, my friends were all watching the results come in on pins and needles, like a very similar situation. I mean, you are also my roommate.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, there were a lot of very similar situations in, I know, both of our friend and family groups similar to yours. And I know that a lot of people had a really hard time. I don't want to say they found it difficult to believe what was happening, but like on the one hand, it terrified a lot of them, but on the other hand, it didn't quite feel real because all the poll numbers were saying one thing and or had been, and all the projections and everything. It seemed very clear, at least in a lot of people's minds, that it was going to turn out very differently than it did. And even though I can't talk about my own political views, I will say that I have a lot of friends who are negatively affected by some of the policies in one of the party's stated platforms. And it was just a very difficult night. I feel like I'm not saying anything that you didn't already say, but
Well, that's just because I'm so well spoken.
it's true.
And I just say, like, really intelligent things. The day after the 2016 election, you and I got together. I don't actually remember what we did. I just remember that we were hanging out. I remember that night we got together so that me and some of our other friends just, like, you know, expressed our concerns over what was going to happen and about how things had turned out. We all got dinner together at some vegan restaurant.
Oh, yeah, it was Mother's.
Yeah, okay. I wonder if that's still open.
As far as I know.
I'd like to try vegetarianism, but it's like every single meal that I eat has meat. I struggle just to find new foods outside of what I already eat. To completely cut out the one thing that I know I'm going to like and eat, that's just like a lot for me.
Well, they're making a lot of advancements in the field of non-meat meat.
I feel like that's a great way to go, and I do know that I like veggie burgers and stuff.
Sure.
But I also feel like, for me anyway, personally, it would be cheating to go just from meat to fake meat, because I feel like if I'm not trying to find new things, and I'm just like, well, I'll just go from real meat to fake meat, then I feel like I'm cheating, you know? I feel like I'm not, like, doing more work. If that makes sense?
I guess so,
It
but
feels
like...
too easy, and if something seems too easy, then I shouldn't be doing it. That's just who I am.
But
I just really like to challenge myself.
Yeah,
That's
but
just
isn't
who
the-
I am.
wouldn't the whole point of vegetarianism be to keep from harming animals?
Is meat made of animals?
Let me backtrack. I realize a lot of different people have a lot of different reasons for being vegan or vegetarian or not being vegan or vegetarian or anything, and I'm not... I support you in whatever your dietary choices or needs are. Both you, AJ, and you, the listener.
Thanks. We should stop talking about food, though, because I'm getting hungry.
I'm sorry.
Like, are you allowed to do volunteer work and stuff? Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Well, and also, like, in our lives as private citizens, like, we're allowed to volunteer for political campaigns and stuff. We just can't publicly, you know what I mean? We can't, like, on a public platform,
like, endorse.
spread political messages, I guess. Like, we could go door to door as an individual private person on our own time.
Okay.
But we can't widely circulate opinions on political parties or specific candidates
Gotcha.
or specific politicians.
Yeah, up until 2016, I, like, wasn't very politically active. I was voting, but I was also, like, half-assedly learning about what was going on. And then after 2016, I was like, well, fuck, I guess now I have to, like, actually learn and, like, get more involved. But I still haven't volunteered or anything. Mostly because I'm too poor. I need all my time. Mostly to make money. I haven't been to, like, any protests or anything either before. That's mostly, though, because I worry about safety. Although, actually, that's true of the last few years. I would have gone to protests and stuff before I even started voting. I was down to go to protests. But I was always working. And ever since I started doing Shipped, there were plenty of protests that I could have gone to, but I was just always so concerned about safety. And, like, I don't
That's
know.
understandable.
Like, and especially, and this is a whole other topic, but with so much gun violence in so many public places, I'm like, I can't do it. I just haven't been able to bring myself to do it.
No, that's very understandable.
No. Have you ever been to, like, protests or anything?
Yeah, I've been to a few.
What's that experience like? Like, that's what I'm wondering the most.
I'll say that I've felt a little trepidatious before going to protests before, but by the time I get there, almost every time I've been to one, there's like a sense of camaraderie and everybody's been really supportive of each other. And that's not to say I've never felt unsafe at a protest ever. And obviously, like, you know, I'm a very privileged, white passing, quote unquote, male presenting person. So I know that that privileged position does make it safer for me than for a lot of other people. I feel like I'm trailing off.
Yeah.
I want to preface this by stating that I don't personally have a diagnosis from a mental health professional of social anxiety, but I think that I might have it. Anyway, so that often makes me very nervous and self-conscious at things like that. But most of the time, I find that you sort of like fall into a rhythm. And like, since you're all there with the same goals in mind and the same sense of purpose, at least in that moment, you're all a community, you know what I mean? And I found it to be really positive in that way. It can also be really hard to get over if you were raised to be non-confrontational or not particularly aggressive, or like you weren't raised knowing how to channel anger or rage or negative feelings. It can be difficult. I mean, you're there to be passionate and you're there to speak for something you believe in very deeply. And it can be hard to get past your self-consciousness at the beginning. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, I go to protests all the time. I really don't. And I would like to be more active in that way. So I'm not trying to make it sound like, you know, I'm the perfect model of political engagement or anything, because Lord knows I'm not. But yeah, so I hope that was a slightly helpful answer, at least. I think in all I've maybe been to 4 or 5 protests in my life. I don't think I've ever regretted it. So take that for what it is worth. But also, I do want to point out that there are a lot of ways to be politically engaged, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. It sounds really corny, but like, follow your heart and learn your strengths and what you feel comfortable doing and what you are passionate about. And I think staying informed is such a big component of the whole thing. Like, that's half the project of being politically engaged, right? Is like knowing how the various parts of the system work, knowing about current events and current issues and policy in general, I think is a good thing for anyone to do. And I think voting is super, 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 super important. Again, I am off the rails. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So do protests usually take place like in front of the Capitol, or like on Congress in front of the Capitol, or?
Very often they do, yeah. But it really just depends on what the protest is about, what the issue is.
Okay. Well, if it's not like always at the Capitol, then there's no point. I was just trying to figure out why I could go to the Capitol more. I don't visit the Capitol very often, and it's like the grounds are pretty.
Yes.
I'm usually only there for like book fairs and stuff, though. Didn't we like see someone at a book fair? That's vague as hell. Just like we just saw someone at a book fair once. It was so weird. Laura Bush is who I meant.
Laura Bush established the Texas Book Fair.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thanks, girl. Good looking out.
You know how every first lady has like a what am I trying to say? Like an
cause?
issue? Yeah, a cause. Thank you. That she focuses on in her time as first lady, right? And so Laura Bush's was always literacy and reading.
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
She's like the Dolly Parton of First Wives.
First Wife. I think you're thinking of the First Wives
No, they're
Club.
the first wives. The first wife of America. No, I got it right.
Anyway.
The Texas Book Festival is just like, you know, swarming with attractive men. They're at a book festival. I mean, you're a man who knows how to read. You know how hard that is to find?
Literacy is so sexy.
Oh my god. Too much? Oh, you know what? Literacy is sexy, but also knowledge in general is. So one time, oh my god, I don't remember a lot about my elementary school experiences, but I remember one of the kids asked, "Miss, what color is the White House?" I think I remember her being patient when she answered him, but I was also like, wow, it's the White House. Oh god. Anyway, it was just a thought that I just had.
It's not like possible the kid was joking or anything.
I mean, I don't remember. It was so long ago. Maybe they were, but that's not how I remember it.
Yeah. Oh.
That kid's an adult now who votes. That is why voting is so important, y'all. My parents never really talked to me about voting. It just wasn't really anything we talked about. They're Democrats, I knew that much. And like, I remember I used to think that voting didn't matter, and I do believe that at least a large part of that is because I got that idea from my parents. I'm pretty sure it was the Bush-Gore election. I'm pretty sure I have vague memories of that being the time when my parents were like, well... And I don't remember if it was both of them. If it was only one, I don't really remember which one it was. But anyway, I do remember that they never really talked to me about voting or how to do it or what it meant to do it or why we did it. I had to learn all that from school. I had to learn all that on the streets.
By streets, you mean hallways of your schools?
My school was real poor. We didn't all get to go to some rich white... I'm just kidding.
we didn't all get to go to schools with fancy hallways.
It's a hallway? Hallway.
Yeah, a lot of people got really discouraged with the whole electoral process in the 2000 election.
I actually put out a video about how the electoral process and all that works recently. If anyone is interested in watching me in the video while I'm talking, I was just sewing up my wrist brace. So if you feel like watching me sew and talk politics, check out the video. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Tim will probably leave more resources or something.
I will definitely do that. And yeah, definitely go check out AJ's video. Definitely. I felt like I needed to say definitely one more time.
You definitely didn't.
I know that my parents, they've always voted, and they've always taught me that voting and being an engaged citizen are very important. We share a lot of political views, not all of them.
I'm really enjoying this whole thing where you have to be vague. I'm like so into it.
But yeah, we agree on a lot of things. And I feel like even the ways in which I don't necessarily agree with them, it's because I take what they taught me and like go further with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying I'm like better than them or anything like that. I love my parents and they raised me to have what I think are positive values. So I don't know. They raised me to care about people, and I think that that informs the way that I vote more than anything else. So. Or at least I like to think so. That sounded a little too cocky. I don't think I'm like this great, wonderful humanitarian saint or anything. I don't know. I think you should care about people, and I think you should take that into the voting booth with you, and that's...
Just to be clear, listener, he's talking to you and definitely not talking to me. Care about people. Care.
AJ, I know you have like a brand to maintain, but like...
But like what? No, go ahead, say it. What?
We all know that you care about people.
You heard his last words here first, people.
You're constantly reminding people to hydrate. You're constantly like checking in with people and seeing how they're doing.
Timothy, if other people didn't exist, who would I use? Did you think about that? No. You only think about others.
I love you, AJ. You know, I think both you, AJ, and listeners can probably relate. I've probably had more disagreements or more impassioned conversations about politics and government and things like that with family members who aren't my parents. I've said it before on the podcast, I have a very big family, and so with that comes, and I know you do too, AJ, but with that often comes a wide variety of different viewpoints and ways of seeing the world and things like that.
This is gonna be good, y'all. Let's hear him try to tell this.
One of my uncles asked me what my opinion of a particular politician who had recently been elected at that point was. I will say it wasn't the president. It was a member of Congress. Okay. Our bicameral legislature. Watch AJ's video to find out. I don't know. Interestingly enough, the politician he was asking me about doesn't directly represent either him or myself. We're not part of that person's constituency, but whatever. But he asked me, hey, Timothy, what do you think of insert politician's name here? And I said, I agree with a lot of this politician's stances. And I think that this politician really cares about the good of the country and the world in general. And I think that a lot of this politician's policy positions are in keeping with social goodness and with conscious and conscientious living, I guess I could say. And he said, oh, but don't you think that this politician is going to destroy our entire way of life. And like, I'm exaggerating a little bit. I don't think he said exactly that. But anyway, essentially, my point is that he brought, like, we were not talking about politics. I mean, to be completely honest, I don't think he's listening to this, so it probably doesn't matter. I don't even know if he'd know who he was if he was listening to this. And if another family member is listening to this and they know who I'm talking about and they're offended, I'm sorry. I love all of you, but I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, but well, that was a little too snarky. I'm sorry.
I was about to say he's about to apologize.
Anyway, but so essentially he brought up this politician out of the blue just because he assumed that I agreed with this politician's stances, just so that he could tell me why she's wrong, why this politician is wrong, why I'm wrong for supporting her, even though we had never talked about her before, so he didn't know for sure that I did support this person. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it was just really gross. Like, yeah. I felt very like set up for a tear down, and I'm like, what? Why are we even having this conversation right now? It wasn't even like we were debating. I mean, it wasn't an intellectual debate. It wasn't, which, I mean, that's a whole nother thing we could talk about, boiling down issues that directly impact people's lives and rights. Talking about them as like philosophical debates is a whole problematic thing. Anyway, oh, I'm getting a little too fired up. Anyway, but yeah, he brought her up. He brought this politician up just so he could like score points on me. Like, it just felt very disingenuous, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say now, were you trying to avoid pronouns?
Yes.
You didn't.
I know.
Okay, just checking. Because like you corrected I only noticed you correct once. Anyway, you said she, and then you stopped and were like, "This politician, her thing," and I was like, like you immediately. Anyway, a cousin of mine who I haven't seen since I was a child recently sent me a friend request, and I could only see like 4 of his profile photos, and he wasn't in. I think maybe he was in one of them, but most of them weren't of him. They were of other things. But a couple of them were, a couple of the things that they were, I think one had the Confederate flag, and then one was like a Blue Lives Matter kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, clearly we don't need to see what the other is posting, but on the very off chance that he is the kind of person who can have a conversation without all capsing, I'll go ahead and accept it. So I accepted his friend request, even though I was like, it's not going to work. And so I went on about my day, and then later I saw him post something that wasn't political, it was just something else. But it made me think, oh, now that I've accepted, I can see his profile, because I couldn't see his profile before, most of it was private. So I was like, oh, I didn't even think to look at his profile after I accepted. So I went and I did that, and like, with the exception of that post that made me click on his profile in the first place, the first like 3 posts after that were all very opposite of what I believe. I remember for sure one of them was like pro-Trump, and I was like, nope, I'm out. So I unfriended pretty fast, but I think that's like the fastest that I've ever unfriended someone for political reasons. I don't typically unfriend too quickly. I wait until we've had a couple conversations and that they haven't gone well. Then I'm like, okay, clearly neither of us is doing anything here except making the other upset. So like, we don't need to do this. And that's when I unfriend. This was the fastest. I was like shook.
Because like, yeah, a lot of times if you are able to like talk to someone and they're willing to listen to you, like sometimes you can change a person's mind or their heart, or I'm not. Yeah,
no, I do. There are definitely some people who have told me like, oh, I haven't thought of it that way, and I'm like, okay, thank you for being open to thinking about it that way now. Like, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
But on the other hand, like, it's also I commend you for knowing when you're not going to be able to have a productive dialogue with someone.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm not about wasting my time. Like, I'm down to have these conversations, but I'm also like, that doesn't mean I'm down to let you spew hate and all caps me. I just really hate being all caps. It's so annoying.
God, yeah.
Especially when it's like right off the bat, like I say one little thing and they immediately all caps me. I'm like, bro, the way a story is supposed to build, you get to the climax. You don't just immediately go for it. Like, ew, no. I'm just like, I could definitely educate myself so much more on politics and like who I'm voting for and stuff, but I'm not the only one who can definitely do that.
Yeah.
My school, I don't think that we ever had like mock elections, so like I never had to like learn how to, like, I feel like I wasn't set up in a way to learn how to do it. I know we had student council, but like I don't think that everyone even voted for that or anything.
Oh, you mean like the general student body?
Yeah, like I remember I was in student council and we voted for the student council president, but I don't think the whole student body.
I don't think so.
I don't have any memories about what it was like voting for like class representatives or anything.
I remember voting for class superlatives.
Right? I remember that. I remember that in like 5th grade. I was Professor Potter. We like made up our own. I was voted Professor Potter because I knew so much about Harry Potter.
I was the runner up for it was like most academic or something like that, and I lost by 1 vote, and it was mine because I voted for the other person.
Oh God.
Because I felt like that was the right thing to do.
Ew.
Yeah, we had mock elections in middle school. I remember for the 2000 election, my 7th grade English class all went across the hall into this computer lab. And for some reason, our teacher, I don't remember if she had been in there and she just left or if she had never gone in there with us at all. But at any rate, we were unattended minors in a computer lab in the year 2000. And so we're all just sitting there, like, getting logged in and everything to cast our fake votes. Mm-hmm. And there was a student, I guess I shouldn't say her name, huh? There was a student who felt very passionately that one of the candidates should win. And she stood up, I think after she had cast her vote, she stood up and she like...
Oh, wait, sorry, just to be clear, y'all are voting for, like, the presidential candidates?
I'm so sorry, yes, it was the presidential election of 2000 that we were having a mock
okay, for a second I thought you meant like you were voting for, like, a class thing. Okay.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, no, it was the 2000 presidential election. Okay. And so she felt very strongly that one of the presidential candidates should win. So she stood up and she announced to the whole room, granted there were, I don't know, not that many of us in there, but she announced to the whole room, okay, if anybody votes for insert one candidate here, I'm going to, and I can't, in my memory, she said, give you a knuckle sandwich. Mm-hmm. But since I didn't go to middle school in the 1950s, I'm pretty sure that's not what she said. But she did make it very clear that she was threatening physical violence against anybody who didn't vote in the way that she wanted them to. And she watched over people's shoulders as they voted. And so I voted for the candidate she wanted me to. And again, I have to stress that this was a mock election. We were minors. We were not voting in any official capacity. These votes didn't go anywhere. I mean, I think there was like, you could see the results somewhere, but I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I hope that she grew up to learn that you can't just like go around telling people what they have to do.
I hope so.
I know. Anyway, well, best wishes to her. Anyway, listeners, you have to email us with any problems you have. You have to do it, or I will give you a knuckle sandwich. And if your problem is just that there's a podcaster who's threatening to give you a knuckle sandwich, send it in because we really need something to talk about. I'm just kidding. We're not like desperate. But like if you do have a problem, we recently did an episode answering a question. Which episode was that? Do you remember? 8?
That was episode 8, yes.
Yeah, check out episode 8 if you want to hear how we give advice. And then once you realize that we will give you the best advice you're ever going to get, go ahead and send us an email at botherus@canibotheryou.com.
Yes, please.
However, if you want advice from only one of us, me. I was talking about me. Anyway, if you want advice from one of us, you can find me at AJ Reyes F13 on the Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and then also you can check out my YouTube videos. Again, we'll link the one where I explain the Electoral College in the show notes. But I usually do comedy, so you could also laugh with me if you'd like. Timothy, where can they find you if they want to ask you for advice?
Well...
And not me for some weird reason.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's pretty doubtful. Bet it's not gonna come up. But you can find me on Twitter at TCJDV, on Instagram at Tomatillo88. On Facebook, just search Timothy Dailey-Valdes. I'll come up. That's Dailey with an E, Valdez with an S. Oh, there's also a hyphen in it. Anyway, and you can find my writing and all sorts of fun stuff at timothydaileyvaldes.com. And if you are enjoying the podcast in general, if you're having fun hanging out with us, if you're learning things, laughing at things, loving things, we would love it if you would subscribe to our podcast on your podcatcher of choice. And if you would throw us a rating, that would be lovely as well.
Hit us with those 5 stars.
Yes, please.
Meow, meow, meow.
We're desperate for your affection and approval.
One of us is.
Well, yeah, it's me. Spoiler alert. We also have a Ko-fi account. So if you would like to support us financially, in addition to supporting us with your ears, you can head over there. We are Can I Bother You on Ko-fi as well. Is this what am I doing now?
I mean, that's the last thing, really. So now we just gotta get out of here.
Yeah, we gotta be a little cute, be a little funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yes, thanks, folks.
Have a good week. You'll hear us next week.
Yes, you will, and don't forget to vote.
Vote.
It's so important. Like, y'all, we've had a lot of fun here today. We've had some goofs, had some jokes, had some laughs, had some cries, but. Well, okay, hopefully not cries. But please vote. Please. I cannot stress this enough. For the love of everything that you care about, vote.
Yes, please vote. We will leave links in the show notes with all the important dates that you need to know. So look for that if you need it. Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, there are all sorts of resources. You are not alone. Please vote.
Okay, one more time. Please vote.
Seriously.
Please
y'all.
vote. We're begging. Just do it. Just do it. Just vote. Just do it. Okay, bye.
Bye, y'all.